simple answer is that stress in itself is not bad, providing it's not too much and it's not too frequent. We have to be aware that it's specifically chronic stress that is linked with maladaptation to training as well as disease and can even accelerate aging. In my previous video, I dissected some of the stresses that we're all faced with in this modern world, especially on a day-to-day basis. Too much stress without any recovery will overload your adrenals, lead to negative adaptation, or even worst case, cause overtraining, burnout, or even depression. We have to keep in mind that when it comes to stress, our body doesn't know the difference between the mental and emotional stress and physical stress. The thought of something stressful can already put you into a heightened state. To go deeper into why stress in itself is not bad, we have to go deeper into understanding this concept, this notion called hormesis. Hormesis is a characteristic of many biological processes in responses to exposure to an increased amount of substance or a condition. Simply put, stress in the right amount and right timing can trigger certain responses, which actually makes us stronger. You need to understand that I'm talking about small and acute doses of stress combined with the right amount of recovery time where the body actually has the time to supercompensate and make itself stronger. By this notion, hormesis can also be called what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Here's the first example I'm sure most of you have heard about, training. Keeping it very simple, during training we actually damage our muscle cells. Combined with the right recovery, this leads to supercompensation and building the muscle back stronger than the way it was before we did the training. Now, if you wait too long, the muscle loses that gained advantage and it goes back to its baseline. If you don't wait long enough, the body will incur further damage and we will need more time to heal before it gets stronger, or potentially it won't even be able to get itself stronger because the damage is too big. So too much damage in too short of a time, you see where this is going. The key is to make sure that you keep adding stress at the right timing in order to get a positive build cycle going. This is also known as the compound effect, right? As an example, day-on-day training, you do damage, you recover, you build your body back up stronger, and by default, ultimately, you compound this gained advantages over time. And with that, for endurance athletes, frequency and consistency trumps volume. Being a weekend warrior, as an example, will hamper your progress as the time between sessions might be too long and the stress during the actual sessions, those long weekend sessions, might be too much for the body to handle. Well, you probably heard about altitude training and this stimulating the body to produce an increase in red blood cells. More oxygen can be transported to the muscles, so performance ultimately improves. Another example would be heat training. Being exposed to heat during or shortly after your training stimulates additional blood plasma to be produced or an additional heat shock protein to be produced. More blood volume means an increase in oxygen distribution and transportation, and more heat shock protein enables the body to better recognize heat and thereby starting to cool itself faster and better. It's essential to do this type of heat training and critical for those hot races. Yeah, another example would be autophagy. This is the Greek for self-eating. This can be triggered by fasting or intermittent fasting. So it basically triggers a process that leads to the body clearing itself faster from the weak cells, and hence you're improving your cell turnover, also increasing your metabolic flexibility, and potentially slows down aging. Along those similar lines, another example is using a ketogenic diet for people that have insulin resistance. This can be advantageous for them and have them minimize or even eliminate the need for insulin. The absence of carbohydrate leads to no need for insulin to be part of the metabolism, and to compensate for certain energy stores, ketones will be produced to provide a different source of energy to the body. Although for competitive endurance athletes, I wouldn't personally recommend a strict ketogenic diet. Although for those that want to optimize their metabolic flexibility and maximize their performance, there is a specific LCHF, so low carb, high fat lifestyle for those athletes. The general approach for them is that we want to train low, live low, not ketogenic low, and race high on carbohydrates. Tailoring this approach through measuring the blood insulin levels and to tracking the individual athlete's performances is recommended for this journey. So just simply winging it won't suffice. And then there's a whole host of examples of hormesis about the plants and herbs that we can eat as part of our daily staples and meals. To either restore balance, improve our immune system, reduce stress, etc. Think of ginger, red pepper, oregano, and there's many more of these examples in the plant world that can give you all their individual benefits. Yeah, it's a good question. There's a great book called Stronger by Stress by Simlands. I would say that this is a great place to start for those that want to dive deeper, and I do talk deeper, into this whole concept of hormesis. Now, as a word of caution, if you remember that adaptation is stress plus recovery, you've noticed in the examples of supercompensation that time is important as a factor to take into account. It's essential that we reduce or eliminate chronic stress. And then we can be very targeted with the acute stresses we expose our bodies to. And those should be tailored to our goals, bodies, and where you are on your journey. Ultimately, 1 plus 1 can be 2, it can be 3, it can be 0.5. It all depends on finding that right balance and the right adaptations. So work with your coach or experts around you to figure out what is the right path for you and the right type of stresses to be exposed to, reduced, or recover from. And don't forget, the key to being able to absorb more stress is mastering recovery. Some of the best athletes in the world are absolute masters in this. And the key question is, are you ready to join them? In some of the next videos, I'll go deeper into some fundamentals as well as some advanced recovery techniques. And I'm looking forward to seeing you there.